Here's Matt Powell with 10 silly reasons to not believe in the Big Bang.
I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, and in this video I'm going to give you 10 reasons why that is. Number one, because if everything was condensed down into an infinitely dense hot point, everything that you see, and that hot point exploded, let me say only smaller particles are going to fly off. It's not going to construct larger pieces of material. It's only going to shatter and break down into smaller pieces of energy.
And that's exactly what happened at first. Matt seems to think that the Big Bang Theory says that the Big Bang created things. It didn't. It was simply the earliest moment of the universe's expansion. Once things spread out enough for the fundamental forces to separate from one another, they began to pull things back together. The strong nuclear force held quarks together into hadrons, the weak nuclear force held hadrons together into atomic nuclei, and the electromagnetic force held electrons to the nuclei and also attracted atoms to other atoms. Eventually enough atoms came together to form a mass big enough for gravity to pull in even more stuff, and that's how the first planets and stars formed.
Reason number two would be that you cannot take a small piece of energy or dust and convert it into a boulder, for example, or a planet, for example. It is impossible.
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory doesn't say that small pieces of energy became boulders and planets. Rather, once the universe reached a low enough density, energy coalesced into matter, and then matter clumped together into boulders and planets. Maybe what Matt means is that things with small volume can't become things with a larger volume. This is obviously false, because if you take any mass and lower its density, like what happened after the Big Bang, it will increase in volume.
There is no way to convert these small materials, this infinitely dense hot point that they claim that the Big Bang was, into gigantic pieces of rock.
There is a way. Reduce its density.
The third reason is that you cannot convert dust to water. Again, in the Big Bang model, they claim that energy or dust was compacted down and then exploded and converted into all of the elements on the periodic table.
Energy converted into elementary particles, and those particles were fused together to form heavier elements inside of stars. The first atoms to form from atomic forces and the electromagnetic force were hydrogen atoms. Fusion in the center of stars can create elements as heavy as iron. An element much less heavy than iron is oxygen. Once you have hydrogen and oxygen, you have the atoms to form water. That's how you get water from dust. When stars go supernova, they produce enough energy to cause nucleosynthesis and the R process, which can create even heavier elements than iron,
including water, and that is impossible for that to have happened.
I suppose you can think that it's impossible if you never bother to look into it.
Reason number four would be that there are certain elements that you cannot compress past a certain point. Take a gallon of water, for example. Could a gallon of water fit inside of or be compressed down into a dot that is smaller than a period on a page?
Yes, that is in fact possible. Black holes form when things get compacted much more densely than that. A gallon of water is about 3.78 kilograms. In order to make such a mass dense enough to create a black hole, you have to compress it into what's called the Schwarzschild radius. It's the radius of a sphere into which a given mass has to be compressed to be dense enough to form a black hole. The Schwarzschild radius of 3.78 kilograms is 5.619 times 10 to the negative 27 meters. That's far tinier than a period. Since black holes exist, it is clearly possible for matter to get that dense because it needs to get that dense in order for a black hole to form.
Absolutely not. That is impossible.
How do you figure? Do the math. Show me how you calculated that this is impossible. You said that things can't be compressed beyond a certain point, so what is that point? What do you think is the specific upper limit of how dense something can get?
So there's no way that all of the matter that we see existed as energy previously and was condensed down into a infinitely dense hot point.
Every black hole has an infinitely dense hot point in the center of its event horizon. Does Matt not believe that black holes exist?
Reason number five is that chaotic explosions do not create orderly systems.
Nobody is saying that they do. The Big Bang didn't create anything. That seems to be a common misconception among creationists. The Big Bang Theory does not say that the Big Bang created anything. It's just the earliest moment of the universe's expansion, which follows the laws of physics which have never not existed. They were not created because there was never a time when they didn't already exist. Explosions, by the way, are not so chaotic that they defy the laws of physics. There is still order to explosions.
Think about it. We live in the Milky Way galaxy. It is an orderly system. We have a solar system with planets that go about in a specific orbit. How could a random explosion create something like that?
It didn't. The laws of physics that created the solar system have existed for as long as time has existed, and the expansion of the universe that began at the Big Bang also does not defy the laws of physics. It is also orderly in that sense.
That is impossible. Reason number 6 is that explosions destruct things. They destroy. They're claiming in the Big Bang model that we came from a rapid expansion or an explosion.
Who is claiming that? Anyone who says that the universe was created by the Big Bang doesn't understand what the theory actually says. Since the universe is the space-time continuum, the universe has existed for as long as time has existed. There was never a time when the universe didn't already exist, and therefore it didn't need to be created at all, because in a sense it was always already in existence.
If you have an explosion that occurred from an infinitely dense hot point, it is going to wreak havoc on whatever is in its path. It's not going to construct a solar system like I mentioned in the last point.
Nobody claims that the Big Bang created the solar system. The solar system didn't even exist until about 9 billion years after the Big Bang. The solar system was created by atoms that were largely created in previously existing stars, accreting together into the sun and the planets.
It's not going to create order out of chaos.
There never was complete chaos. There was never a time when the laws of physics didn't apply.
It is just simply impossible. Explosions destruct. God must have constructed this universe.
When did he do that? When was the universe not already constructed?
Reason number 7 is that dust cannot start a fire. Think about it. You've got nuclear fusion in space, the sun. Could energy exploding just cause the sun to come into existence?
No, and nobody claims it does. Where do you even get the idea that the Big Bang created the sun? Gravity created the sun, not the Big Bang.
Nuclear fusion. You cannot get a fire from nothing.
When do you think there was nothing? There never was nothing. And don't you believe that God created the universe ex nihilo? If you can't get fire out of nothing, how did God manage to do it?
These elements would have worn out and broken down, deteriorated and shattered into non-existence. They would not have constructed anything.
What elements? At the Big Bang, there were no chemical elements. There was only energy. It wasn't until things spread out enough that the first particles started to coalesce into hadrons and then atoms.
Reason number 8 is that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. According to the Big Bang Theory, everything was condensed down. Everything that you see, all the stars, planets, galaxies, and oceans was condensed down as energy into this infinitely dense hot point. And then in a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a second, it went from the size of that tiny point to something billions of miles across.
The law says that nothing can travel through space faster than the speed of light. Space itself can expand faster than light can travel through it. We know this because we can see and measure space doing this right now. We can see the farthest galaxies moving away from us faster than light speed.
No joke, that is what they claim, and that is trillions of times faster than the speed of light. That is scientifically impossible. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light.
Nothing can travel through space faster than the speed of light.
Reason number 9 is the first law of thermodynamics. Believe it or not, you cannot get something from nothing. A lot of people think that you can, and a lot of people assert that the Big Bang was something from nothing, that there was literally nothing in that infinitely dense point.
Please name a single person who claims that there was nothing in the Big Bang singularity. The theory states the exact opposite. It says that literally everything was in the singularity, not nothing. Maybe Matt's thinking of Lawrence Krauss, who had a very idiosyncratic definition of nothing.
Nothing created everything. Some people do espouse that. How is that possible? How is nothing going to explode and create everything?
That's what you believe. You believe that God created everything out of nothing.
That is so ludicrous. This shows that there had to have been an external force that created, and that leads into point number 10.
If you can't get something from nothing, how did an external force do it?
That you cannot get an explosion from nothing.
And there never was nothing. The Big Bang is the earliest moment of the expansion of the universe that has literally never not been occurring. Matt seems to think that the Big Bang Theory says that there was a time when there was absolutely nothing, and then an explosion occurred that created everything. In fact, there was never a time when there was nothing. This should be obvious because at all points in time, at the very least, time would exist. Since that's the case, it is a contradiction to say that there was a time when nothing at all existed.
Not only do some people think that there was nothing in this infinitely dense hot point, but that nothing caused it to explode. It just happened to explode for no reason.
It's not like it was just sitting there in a state of rest and suddenly it started exploding. There was never a time when the universe wasn't exploding. It's still exploding now. Newton understood that objects in motion will stay in motion unless something stops them. The motion of an object only needs a cause if that object was, at one time, at rest. There was never a time when space was at rest, therefore its expansion does not need a cause.
What if I claimed that nothing caused something to explode in this room where I'm filming? You probably wouldn't believe me, right?
Right, because it's not exploding right now. If something which was once not exploding then started exploding, I would expect there to be a cause of that explosion. But as Newton discovered, if something has always been exploding, such an explosion does not need a cause because any kind of movement only needs a cause if there was once a time when that movement wasn't occurring. There has never been a time when the universe wasn't exploding, therefore that explosion does not need a cause.
I'd say that's a little bit crazy. What if I said nothing caused a detonation to take place?
That would only make sense if that detonation either never took place or if that detonation has always taken place for as long as time has existed.
The universe isn't just going to appear from nothing and from an explosion that was caused by nothing. It had to have been created by a God who made the decision to create something from nothing, who made the choice to create matter and energy.
Why? Why would that require a choice? An argument I've often heard is that choices are the only things that can occur without prior causes. There are two things wrong with this claim. One is that choices, as best we can tell, do in fact have prior causes and don't just happen spontaneously. The other is that while choices don't look like they're spontaneous, there are things which do look like they happen without cause. Spontaneous occurrences not only don't need to be choices, there is no reason to think that choices are spontaneous at all.
These are just some of many reasons why I reject the Big Bang Theory and I accept creation science as being true. I believe that God created the world. I do not believe for a second that the world created itself.
The Big Bang Theory does not say that the world created itself. Anyone who thinks that the Big Bang is an explanation for the universe's existence doesn't understand it. The universe didn't need to create itself, nor did anything else need to create it. Since the universe is the space-time continuum, there was never a time when it didn't already exist. The only way there could be an exception to this is if the universe is a consequence of an event that took place in another space-time continuum. In that case, it was created by another natural phenomenon, not a god.
I think it is ludicrous to assert that the Big Bang is even a possibility. When you actually break it down and look at it, you can see that it is not.
Your straw man conception of it is certainly not possible. If you look at what the theory actually says, it seems not only possible, but quite likely given how it fits all of the evidence that we have.
In this video, we've covered some of the many reasons why I personally reject the Big Bang Theory, and I believe that these are very robust reasons, that they are arguments based in science, logic, and reason itself. And if you're going to argue with me about it, look, you got to argue with the science.
No, you were the one arguing with the science. Everything I'm saying is perfectly consistent with the science. You haven't even looked into what the science actually says.
I am referencing the sciences as my authority on this matter.
No, you are not. You are presenting a straw man of what the science says.
If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy the video that I actually posted right before this one, where I talk about a specific photo that proves Noah's Ark and Noah's flood. And so if you get time, check that out as well.
I can't wait to see what AI and or photoshopped picture some boomer sent him on Facebook.
To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.